78 Sports TV here. So I'm checking out my boy Boxing Beats and Rhymes page.
Doing it from Boxing Beats and Rhymes channel.
This is Tony Thompson, chilling with Boxing Beats and Rhymes. Everyone you chilling with Boxing Beats and Rhymes. This is that mere hardcore man store on Boxing Beats and Rhymes YouTube channel.
I don't know if you want to answer. Possible Manny Pacquiao fight with Floyd Mayweather. How you feel about that?
Well, basically, it's a fight that still has the potential to happen.
James Butler should never be allowed in the ring again.
James Butler, super middleweight. He once lost in a title attempt against Sven Ottker from Germany. Butler had the reputation of being a puncher, but in 2001, he fought Richard Grant. Not the actor, but the boxer, Richard Grant, who used to wear his hair in all types of bright colored blonde and red and all types of shit there. After the journeyman, let's face it, Grant was a journeyman. That's what he was. Before the Butler fight, you can just see pure losses here and there, basically a journeyman, or a trial horse, let's say. You see, when I said journeyman, to me, should be reserved for a different type. A journeyman is not what you guys think. A journeyman is a craftsman who can take prospects and champions the distance. There's actually an art to being a journeyman. But let's not digress. Richard Grant upset the odds and he outpointed James Butler. He outpointed him. Butler, deeply disappointed. The fight took place in New York. Richard Grant made his way around to console his beaten opponent Butler. In hindsight, we can see Butler cocking his hand back. He's got his hand bound up and bunched up into a fist. Butler suddenly hit the unsuspecting Grant with a right hook to the jaw, and Grant's jaw was badly broken. Butler was arrested and charged with aggravated assault. I remember either his management or some representation for Richard Grant saying he was still suffering from that bout years later. I think he was either getting fits or some kind of ailment as a result from that incident. So it didn't end there for him. The representative also said there was a lot of psychological fallout on Richard Grant's behalf due to that illegal punch. He wasn't quite right again. Teddy Atlas, he went crazy. In the same year that he lost to Omar Shaker, I was wondering if Shaker was worrying if he was going to cold cock him too, because Shaker, I can't remember who initiated the embrace between them. They did embrace after the fight, and Butler didn't cheap shot him. But in the same year, a few months later, Sam Kellerman, the brother of boxing analyst Max Kellerman from HBO, was murdered. His body was found on October the 17th. Butler was considered a suspect. He had been friends with Kellerman for 10 years. On October the 20th, accompanied by a lawyer, Butler sought treatment for his alleged bipolar disorder. Butler was arrested for the Kellerman slaying on October the 27th, and 2 days later, he pled not guilty to murder and arson. He was held on bail for around $1 million. Prosecutors claimed that Butler was the only suspect in the case. He repeatedly struck Kellerman in the head with a hammer, then torched Kellerman's Hollywood, California apartment in an attempt to cover up the murder. On July the 8th, 2005, a Los Angeles judge ruled that there was no sufficient evidence for Butler to stand trial on the charges of murder and arson. On March the 27th, 2006, Butler pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and arson in the death of Kellerman in 2004. Butler was sentenced to 29 years and 4 months in prison by Superior Court Judge Michael Pastor. This is all according to Deputy Public Defender Jack Keenan. The suspect motive for the murder was that Kellerman was forcing Butler to move out of Kellerman's apartment. Butler, who was struggling to revive his career and suffering for a difficult relationship with his girlfriend and child, picked up a hammer and killed Kellerman. Nicknamed the Harlem Hammer, Butler was also instructed to pay nearly $18,000 in funeral expenses to Kellerman's family. $10,000 to the State Victims Restitution Fund, and $11,882 to the owner of the victim's apartment, which was left torched and blood-soaked after the killing. Well, how's he going to pay that, you know? If he's in jail, how can he earn money to pay that? You know what I mean? I don't get that at all. I mean, you're putting him in jail for 29 years, rightly so. Should be longer. But I don't see where is he supposed to get this money from? That doesn't make any sense at all. I saw James Butler. I'm not sure if they interviewed him from jail. And he was talking about the Richard Grant incident. I'm not sure if he was talking about the murder incident. I'm not sure if it was after them. I can't remember. It was on KOTV. I remember watching this. But let's stay specific to the Richard Grant thing. He was talking about his alleged repentance for what happened. And there was no repentance. There was no regrets. There was no empathy or sympathy for Richard Grant in his face. To me, it looked like he was trying to earn some stripes for good behavior while he was in jail. That's what it seemed like to me. Or some kind of plastic attempt to maybe get his license back. I can't remember if he was in jail or not. You know, I can't remember. But there you go. There you go. James Butler, the Harlem Hammer, dysfunctional boxer. Dereck Chisora is a recovering dysfunctional boxer. So, you know, it doesn't always end bad. But then again, he's still fighting. So, you know, I think he's went into anger management. I think that's probably a condition that Frank weren't putting him because, you know, he's just going to lose himself and Frank money if he continues with his antics. Dereck has definitely been dysfunctional. It hasn't ended up in murder or in being in jail or anything like that, or a psychiatric unit. At some stages it looked like it could go there. Carl Baker, remember Carl Baker? He kissed him on his lips like they were going eye to eye at the press conference or whatever before they were fighting. And Dereck kissed the guy on his lips and the guy went mad. And Dereck later beat him up in the ring. Dereck, you know, he was just crazy. He bit Paul Butlin on his shoulder in an 8-rounder. He bit him on his shoulder. That was before the Carl Baker incident. Obviously, he took Vitaly Klitschko the distance in a world title attempt. Beforehand, he slapped Vitaly in his face when they went head to head. Took Vitaly by total surprise. You know, had the Union Jack balaclava over his face, just crazed, just a crazed dude. Before the fight, Vladimir was trying to put up a wall in front of Dereck, trying to get in his head, trying to help his brother get some psychological edge in the fight. And Dereck took a swig from his water bottle and he spat the fluid in Vladimir's face, just spat it in his face. Wow. And Vlad just took it, just stood there like an idiot. Then after, in the post-fight conference, David Haye, who came over there with, I can't remember who he came there with, but he obviously wanted a fight with Vitaly, having already failed in an attempt against Vladimir. And I think he was saying, yo, when you going to fight me? When you going to fight me? And Dereck said, David, like, you know, trying to get his attention because Dereck obviously thought that David was muscling in on his hour because it was a very credible performance by Chisora. How's your toe, David? How's your toe? Is what Dereck screamed over to Haye. Haye replied and said, you know, you've lost your last 3 or 4 fights. You lost your last 3 fights and this and that. And he came back at him and it got heated. Dereck, for some reason, he must have been exhausted after the fight. Why he didn't stay in his chair, I don't know. He got up. Him and his little entourage walked over to David Haye like he was going to bad David up. And David threw the famous "you glass me" punch with the beer bottle in his hand and put Dereck over on the deck, you know. David Haye said he felt Dereck's body go limp. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Big fight broke out. Don Charles, Dereck's trainer, he got hit by the haymaker. Adam Booth, his face was all cut up. And it was an absolute mess. It was an absolute mess. At the time, Dereck was saying he was going to shoot David. and Dereck got his license suspended. David Haye wasn't licensed at the time, I believe, and he was applying to get back his license, but this obviously delayed that. They wasn't just going to give him the license straight back. They was going to enforce a little ban on him. But all that did was help build up a fight between the two. You know, it was a big event at the West Ham ground. West Ham coming into it a lot. West Ham is in London. It's in the east of London, and they fought there, football stadium fight, and Hay knocked him out in 5. Was it? I think it was in 5. And they had to put up iron fences in between them in the build-up so they wouldn't get at each other. It was crazy. They were like two animals that had to be prized apart from each other. In all truth, you know, no disrespect to Dereck, he did initiate any hostility between them. It was him who, you know, he came out of his seat and did what he did. Yeah, they were just caged apart. It went back and forth. It was getting pretty nasty. The British Boxing Board of Control wouldn't sanction a fight, so the Belgian Boxing Board of Control had to step in and they sanctioned the fight. It was fought under their jurisdiction in the UK. One of the bigger fights in the UK recently, actually, you know. And after that, Dereck seems to have reined it in. That fight seems to have reined him in a little. There hasn't been nothing overtly crazy from Dereck since then. It has to be said. So that's why I said he's a reformed, dysfunctional boxer. And he's fighting Tyson Fury next. Tyson Fury is definitely dysfunctional. Definitely dysfunctional. The tweets are just absolutely mad. Like calling Lennox Lewis a faggot and saying that he could beat Lennox Lewis and he's better than him and cursing out Vlad, Dereck, this boxer, that boxer, Deontay Wilder. Just absolutely crazy. Kicked over a table in a press conference between Dereck and himself. He threatened to quit boxing. Apparently, I don't know if he's actually been diagnosed as bipolar, but he's definitely got some psychiatric shit going down there. I haven't got all the details to hand. I'm not going to say he's from a dysfunctional family, but his old man used to box. Johnny Fury, he actually fought Henry Akinwande. He was a pro heavyweight. And he's been in jail a long time. He's just come out recently. So he's from that traveling background, you know. It hasn't been a bed of roses. They live relatively hard lives. And yeah, he's dysfunctional too. He's dysfunctional. Recently, he's had to put tape over his mouth in the build-up to the Chisora fight because he's getting fined so much money. He doesn't want to lose no more money. So he came to the press conference gagged up with the tape around his mouth. With something saying BBBC, British Boxing Board of Control or whatever. And he's muzzling himself so he doesn't have to pay out any more money. I remember the time when he was watching either Tony Bellew or David Price fight, and they're both from Liverpool, and he said they were boyfriend and girlfriend. It was funny. He's just crazy, definitely dysfunctional, man. You know, but they're not detrimentally dysfunctional at the moment. It hasn't ended up in murder, like I said, or jail or psychiatric, or them really injuring somebody outside boxing. Although, you know, it's been said Dereck has put the smack down on a couple of his girls, and Tyson Fury brought that up in the press conference in their first fight, saying you're a woman beater and I'm going to teach you for that, and I'm going to, you know, do this and that. So yeah, more dysfunctional boxers there. Tyson Fury and Dereck Chisora.